Very good evening, friends. I warmly welcome Shibu Kochery and Mr. Raju Raman to a thrilling session on Shibu's book, Faith and the Beloved. You're going to have a very interesting and an engaging session. I hope you sit back, relax, and enjoy. So, before I hand over to the two eminent personalities this evening, I'll quickly introduce them. I start with Mr. Raju Raman, S.V. Raman, popularly known as Raju Raman, is a die-hard Calcuttan by and since birth. A cultural curator and facilitator for over 5 decades, he is presently the program consultant at Victoria Memorial Hall and a familiar figure in the cultural fraternity of the city. A guest faculty for communication, German film at various institutions, he is also a freelance journalist as well as anchor and moderator for various events in the city. He is associated with many social and cultural organizations in various capacities. Thank you so much, Rajuda, for being with us. And
It's
as
always a
always,
pleasure.
we are looking forward to you being in conversation with the author this evening.
Sure. Thank you.
Kochery C. Shibu, the best-selling and award-winning author of Men and Dreams in the Dauladhar, graduated from the prestigious National Defense Academy, Khadakwasla, in 1981. He has served in the Indian Navy and commanded 2 warships. Post his retirement, he has executed hydroelectric projects in the Kaveri Basin in Karnataka, Bias River Basin in Himachal, and Teesta River Basin in Sikkim. He holds a postgraduate degree in Defense Studies from Chennai University and an MA in English Literature from Pune University. Shibu has changed tack from the snow-clad mountains to the blue oceans and has been associated with the setting up of a shipping company in India. Faith and the Beloved is his second book. Many of the characters in the novel are inspired from those whom he has encountered during his extensive travel. Kochery C. Shibu was born in Kochi, uh, Kangarapadi, and now lives in Bangalore with his wife and daughter. Thank you, Shibu, for being with us at the Readers and Writers Club.
Thank you
Have
so
an
much, Mona.
enjoyable session. Thank you so much. Have an enjoyable session. And over to you, Rajuda.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mona, for those wonderful words of introduction. Uh, right at the very outset, hi, Kochery C. Shibu. Have I got the pronunciation right?
Yes, thank you. You have got it right. Yes.
Absolutely right. So during the course of this conversation, do I address you as Shibu Cheta or just Shibu?
The Shibu will do.
Shibu will do. And you can also
Yeah.
address me as Raju. Okay?
Yeah,
Right.
sure.
Good. Wonderful. We will make it a free-flowing discussion. Nothing very rigid or serious about it. So let us touch upon as many aspects as we can in the next 45 or 50 minutes. Would you agree?
Sure. Let's go ahead.
Right. And also, before we go ahead, your character, Naiti Sheroyil, is it Sheroyil or Sherozil?
Chosen.
Sherozil. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Fine, good. Uh, you see, with all the introduction that Mona has introduced you with, the Indian Navy, the National Defense Academy, hydroelectric projects. I'm already getting the shocks from the hydroelectric projects here. Uh, Post graduation in defense studies, MA in English literature. That is quite a canvas, a wide gamut of areas in which you have acquired expertise. And it is no wonder because all the experience that you have gathered in all these fields get reflected in your style of writing and in the broad canvas that you bring to your narrative also. So it is absolutely no wonder. But I would like to start at the very beginning. The title itself, Faith and the Beloved. Now, if somebody is just looking at the title before buying the book, one will probably have images being conjured up in the mind of a husband and a wife or lovers who have been faithful or unfaithful to each other. Would you like to elaborate a little bit as to why you zeroed in on this kind of a title for the book?
Yeah, you have got it. Thank you, Raju. I mean, your observations are very correct on the title of the book. The title of the book does convey the spirit or the philosophy of the book, which is value system of individuals. So across the board, as you may be well aware, in any society, the value system of an individual comes from the family, the schooling, the religion, and of course, education. This, in the formative years, gives a value system, and which does vary from individual to individual and how he or she has been brought up. And the question is, how much do you stand by what you believe in, and how much are you going to stretch yourself for your dear ones? So, and there comes the whole system that means it's a value system of individuals at play. Right or wrong is for the readers to decide. Not all of them are right, not all of them are wrong either, in shades of gray. So, Faith and the Beloved in the sum captures that spirit of value system of individuals, of what they believe in, and how much they love their dear ones, and how much they want to stretch out for.
You have hit the nail on the head, Shibu, because the formative years are very important for imbibing all these value systems that you were talking about, because these do reflect in your behavior patterns in later life. What you become later on are mostly kind of built on the foundations of the value systems that you have acquired or imbibed in your formative years through your family upbringing, or you mentioned also religion to a certain extent, but which is also part of family practices in very many cultures of our country. You see, when we are children, we are brought up in a kind of culture which encompasses and is inclusive of religion without even going into different stratas of it. It is kind of a habit of growing up with us, right? And in your novel, you're talking about this family, which is also a kind of Syrian Christian family. They have their own kind of dogmatism too, as far as the church is concerned, which gets reflected in the novel in some way or the other. But what has fascinated me beyond all this, the value system, and I'll come back to the value system a little later, but what has also fascinated me is the structure of the whole novel. You see, because you are following a kind of structure, you have a little piece at the beginning saying what came before. Yeah, somewhat like a behind the curtains story, parde ke piche. Yeah, or and then comes your actual body of the novel, where in a wonderful way you are introducing each character through a chapter. Okay, and at the same time, while introducing the character, the narrative also progresses and unfolds itself, right? And this I find a very fascinating structure. And at the end, you come through something where you say what happened after, right? Now, how did you come to this kind of a structure? Is there some kind of inspiration that you have drawn from somewhere, or it is something you just tried out in this particular novel?
I know the whole if this particular novel, yes, it is non-linear in structure in terms of the way the novel has been spread out. There are number of people, number of places, number of events, and differing timelines. So what you said is very correct. Your observation is very correct. As the story progresses, the timelines are not linear. Individuals are lives of individuals are brought in. And there are, of course, those parts of that narrative will tell how it is going to link to the main story. So the first chapter kind of contains the clue of blueprint. I will put it like that. It's a blueprint with a number of clues, and the reader does need to be a little discerning while reading this, because if you miss out something as you move ahead, you'll find that you're not able to keep track of the timeline, the events, and how they are unfolding. So that is a certain expectation from the people. But yes, it is by design. By design, that when you're playing, writing a novel of this type, wherein you've captured, let's say, an organization called the LTTE, which I say is the fiercest terror organization that has ever existed till date. And they have really carried things to the limit. And there is no era or no area that they have not touched. So therefore, it's in terms of geography, in terms of time, in terms of space, in terms of events. So there is a large canvas that has to be covered to cover that organization. So in many ways, it goes with the kind of plot that was selected, which requires this kind of a vast coverage and in a vast canvas. So that to that
Yes,
extent, it is by design.
yeah, it is by design, and it's very fascinating in that respect because uh, you see, you have rightly mentioned it is not your novel is not for a casual reader, because if somebody is going to go through your novel in a casual manner, then he's going to lose the thread of what is happening. Yeah, it kind of uh, invokes a compulsion of a dedicated and attentive reading of the novel, so that you don't lose track of the events the way they are unfolding. And you have said that it is non-linear. Yes, while reading the novel, several times I felt like it is like a film which is non-linear. It could be a Godard film also, where something is taking place here, something is taking place there, but then they are all joined together in some way. And this is done in a wonderful manner because you know uh, at times it reminds me of Kurosawa's film Rashomon also. You see the same story, which you see from four perspectives, but you come to the same story, the same incidents happen, but the perspectives are slightly different. And that is what is happening in your novel also, because when you're coming back to the same incidents but from the perspective of a different character, then the reader is also forced to look at it from a different angle, actually. Would you agree if I say that?
Yeah, of course, of course, of course.
Mm.
Because as especially when you're talking about a crime thriller or a crime novel, an event has taken place. There is a police which is investigating. There is somebody who was party to it, who knows bits of it. There is let's say, the criminal lot or the gangsters who are involved in. So they are all getting different pieces of information, and in their own way, they are interpreting. And that is the charm, and that is a challenge always in these scenarios, because nobody will get the complete picture, but you have to
Right.
make and interpret. Some of the readers, of course, do find this, the same event being churned from three different angles. Like you said, the discerning readers enjoy it. Those who try to rush through will find it difficult.
At first glance, they might even think there's a printing mistake or a binding mistake, that the same incident
Possibly,
has
yes.
been put again. Right? Yeah, that is
Possibly,
quite
yes.
possible. Yes. Uh, Now, the other factor I wanted to mention was the wonderful way in which you have interwoven fiction and history, because there are a lot of historical events that are interwoven into your narrative every now and then, happenings around us, and these are all very recent, very recent events. You talked about the LTTE. You are talking about the mafias, the dons, the underground world, and you're talking about people who are initially kind of social misfits, who are trying to look for a path for themselves later on and end up where they actually do end up later on. Uh, Now, this kind of meticulous interweaving of historical events with the narrative, and at the same time keeping the interest, the tension, and the drama alive, is not a very easy task at all. So how did you achieve this? Because wherever you're bringing in the same kind of incident, the same action, you have to be very careful that you don't make any mistakes.
That is correct. Yes, I mean that there is a lot of challenge which goes with that. The historical part, in all my writing, I always believe in giving a prism of history. And I believe that it is very important for us to understand how history plays out because what you said about what came before, it's also linked to what we call the Geneva Andolan of the 1930s when
Yeah,
Baba Sahib Ambedkar fell out with Gandhiji. And there was a
right.
feeling of the Dalits at that point in time that even the Congress was not truly representing the case.
Mhm.
Subsequently, of course, Gandhiji got him around, but there was a fierce struggle from the people who wanted to break free from the shackles of the caste system. And here, the one character from what came before starts from that someone who crosses the line to break the barrier and then goes somewhere else, and he wants from one caste he changes caste and just start over fresh. So the historical events. This is also to read to the English reading audience of India, and especially the younger generation. With the advent of the idiot box, the reading has gone a little out of fashion. People always look for easier stuff, which is audio, video, visuals to you. But I believe that understanding of history cannot be from a prism of a media house or individuals because history changes colors every 10 years. Today it's one party in position, history has got one perspective. Yesterday it was somebody else, it got a second perspective. So the reader should be discerning enough to understand history on his or her own capability and discern and move forward. So some of these events have been given with an effort to give a perspective. Let's say the Bombay terror attack from a perspective of, let's say, somebody who has got nothing to do with all this, just a family which gets thrown asunder because let's say, the main member of the family just killed without any warning all of a sudden. And what happens to the family? Or even demonetization, which is an event and how much problems it created and what all went behind, and a perspective on how it has affected maybe not what is straightforward said, but other things which have come about because of the demonetization. So definitely, yes, I agree. This is all by design, and it takes effort to be sure that what you're writing and the background becomes very real to the people. They are familiar with this background, and of course, characters are fictional, and events what we are describing is also fictional.
Yeah, but the historical aspects of it are authentic
Of
in a
course,
way, even though your characters
yes,
are fictional. The historical events are absolutely all authentic, right? So even the
yes,
date wise, it's all coinciding, whether it be monetization, whether it be the terror attack in Mumbai, or whether it be the LTTE Talaivar being eliminated or annihilated. The time frame sticks to all that in the historical perspective, right? So, and your
yes,
characters are also growing up and aging amidst those kind of circumstances, which is what makes it even more relevant when you say that every discerning individual should perhaps be aware of historical facts or socio-economic conditions that are going around oneself. You see, because you cannot be isolated from what is going on around you. And for a creative mind to be creative, the impetus possibly comes from these kind of events that take place all around you. You see, because that makes you think, that makes you question, that makes you express finally. Yeah, don't you think so?
of course, of course. I mean, finally, I agree with what you're saying. That means start point for any writer is to be a voracious reader. Unless you have a broad bandwidth of reading and a mind which can cover the spectrum, your writing will not be able to cover what your mind does not cover. As there's an
Hmm.
old saying which says, your eyes do not see what the mind does not know. So it just goes
Yes,
on like that.
yes. Uh, there's another interesting aspect I came across, and I would take a little bit of time on this because at the end of each chapter, you are giving something which ultimately put together may sound like the Ten Commandments or something like that, you see, from your own perspective. Yeah, not a religious 10 commandments, but 10 commandments for life, as it were. Like, I'll just give a few examples how your chapters end. All of them, almost all of them, end with these kind of commandments in italics over there, where it says, "Life always offers you a second chance, that is called tomorrow." And then there's another one which says, "Keep silent, because the world of silence is a vast fullness. Allah's black diamonds are forever, only the blessed can possess them. Though destiny 100 times waylays you, in the end it pitches a tent for you in heaven. When your trusted ones betray you, you must learn to turn betrayal into trust. Knowing the ingredients of the curry is one thing, only you know the taste. If we accept that uncertainty, it becomes an adventure. If destiny comes to help you, love will come to meet you. A life without love isn't a life. It's your road and yours alone. Others may walk with you, but no one will walk it for you. You are what you believe in. You become that which you believe you can become. So these are all, sort of staring the reader in the face and standing out. So, how much of this philosophy is a kind of philosophy that you yourself have imbibed in your value systems through your own experiences? Because if these kind of things come even in a fiction, in some kind of a narrative, it has to be somewhat autobiographical in nature.
The first part,
How would you react to that?
whatever is written in the book is mine. So the from beginning till end, it is the author in one form or the other. Having
But
said
it
that,
always
the
comes.
lot of this
It also always comes to the characters as a voice from the past. In
a
most of
voice
the
from the
cases,
past. Yeah.
yeah,
So in many ways, it is also to give. See, one of the things that I believe in is to give. Let's say in this case, a lot of the quotations are from a Persian poet called Rumi. It's a very
yeah,
famous poet. So most of these
mhm,
quotations that are seen are quoted from him. It's a very interesting book. To if you get to read, even for the readers, it's very fabulous kind of quotes, and a number of them are from him. So the idea has been that like you said, you caught on to the title of the book. It is the whole thing is again based on beliefs and value system. So
mhm,
almost all the characters in most of the chapters, it's a reflection of their mind and that value system or that faith or what they see and what they believe in. So it was to give a feeling and pulse of that character to the next level. That has been deliberately given. So that
yeah,
sometimes it's a voice from the past, sometimes it's he heard somebody saying, in the past or in whichever way. So the idea is to give the reader a pulse of the mind of that character at that point in time.
mhm,
So, of course, in doing so, it has done a lot of research to pick those readings, and some of the, many of them are quoted from the Persian poet called Rumi, whose quotations are really fabulous. It's kind of inspiring what he says. But the idea is to put in perspective in this novel as the characters go through crisis and we're facing difficult times in their life. Somewhere they have to draw strength from. So that comes from there is a reference to Mahabharata, there is a reference to Bible, there is a reference to Rumi. Then so many things. It all boils down to when you write this kind of a book, it is not just a thriller. It's about thinking individuals and how their minds work.
yeah. There are quite a few references to the Mahabharata also. Yeah, I came across these in the book, and I was wondering, you know, does that reflect in a way that whatever the epics say, whichever religion you're talking about, is a philosophy that is the truth, irrespective of which religion is propagating it.
That is, of course, that is an area where it's like you said, you believe, so you are. So
Mhm.
all the epics come with a certain amount of interpretation, which varies with the perspective. So I have taken on one special one here about Ekalavya and how that one
Yes.
incident is seen by various people. There are about three, and I've heard a number of variations of the same interpretation of the angle. So wherein you talk to somebody who is from that the Hindi heartland, he'll say Ekalavya was a bright guy, but the injustice to the lower caste people has been from the Mahabharata time onwards. So there
Mm,
also there's a bright guy, but Acharya Drona doesn't want to promote him because he's not a Kshatriya. That's the reason given. If you talk to someone else, he says, there is the common perception being that he's a favorite student of Acharya Drona, so he didn't want any competition, so he
mm,
removed competition. And
right.
then there is a third philosophy of the philosophy of the Kshatriya, and the mind that handles power should be tempered, otherwise you're dangerous. All these three, depending on, I've heard all these versions from various people and various times. And it is the same philosophy, the same epic that we all read. So a lot
Hmm.
of the times it's again to give perspective to people on each of the, what I consider the, let's say, the key instances wherein we need to uh, understand perspectives. Then, of course, finally it's for the reader to decide what to make out of it.
Yes, all the research that you were talking about, it must have involved a lot of meticulous research because uh, you are also mentioning some of the code terms used by the mafia people. So, did you have to find out from them? How did you get to these kind of, or have you just created them?
No, no, there's a research based. All the things. That's why I said to give that authenticity. So if you lived in Mumbai, like if you live in Calcutta, there is one type of underworld in Calcutta, but
Yes.
the underworld is only in Mumbai. What you say that the big money underworld, and so there is a set of practices which changes with time. So
Yeah.
what happens is whatever their practices are, it gets kind of declassified and it is in the open after some time. So when
Mm.
you speak to people, do research, take some time, but you can get it. It's not too difficult.
So that
Nothing
way
is
you get
created.
your so that way you get your terms like tijori and all that, right?
Yeah, of course, of course. Those are all terms used by
Mm.
them at some point in time.
Mm-hmm.
Those are actually used.
Okay.
Kokha,
Now,
tijori, and those kind of stuff. What they
khoka,
refer for.
tijori, and of course for normal guns, I think they refer to them as ghodas also.
Yeah, I mean that changes from time to
The
time.
smaller.
Change
Mm.
time. Yeah.
Now, the international canvas that you have portrayed in your narrative here, uh, did the international canvas come because you wanted to bring in the nexus between terrorists, mafia, and so on? And these places which you have mentioned geographically, are these actually locations which are facilitating these kind of activities?
Which were so like for example, the diamonds. There was a time when the Zimbabwe was blacklisted by the world, and they could not sell
Yes.
diamonds in the market.
Mm,
So it is also a fact that they used to sell diamonds to black dealers and in terror organizations. Anybody who will give them money, and it used to be taken out through countries where they were facilitating this. So it is true. It is a historically it's kind of historical fact that Banjul, the capital of a small country in the west of Africa called Gambia.
mm,
So it was a kind of place through which people used to route. So that
mm,
Gambia and Senegal, so that two three of those nations together, and it was an actual practice where LTT had used this nexus with them and taken out diamonds and for raising the funds. So to
mm,
that extent, it was, I'm not saying are, I'm telling in the past they were. So it will be unfair for me to say that they're doing that now because the large diamonds which are mined are accounted for now. So there is a better accounting system than what existed at that point in time that we're talking, where it was
mm,
easy to carry a large diamond worth millions of dollars as against carrying cash or any other form of transaction. So the LTTH's activities actually spread. They had a large network in Canada. They were very active in UK. They had support from Southeast Asian countries. There was support from, so depending on where the support came from. So they had that, let's say, the Reunion Island has got a large Tamil population. So from
mm,
where they draw support and how they move this inside, This was taken out deliberately to bring out that aspect so that our people also should be aware as to, LTT may have been an organization which existed in India, but it had its reach all over the world. It was
Yes.
a world-class operator.
Hmm. Yeah, but then also it was a very kind of regimented organization, right? Uh, because everything that came from the top as orders had to be carried out, otherwise you got eliminated. Is that right?
That is, of course, that is one way of putting it. The
Mm,
other way will be to say that, see, if you see, this is one area where, the LTT's success lies in the fact that they were able to motivate their people to say and convince them that Veera Maranam or dying for a cause is far more greater than living in agony or living in subjugation. Nobody
mm,
has been able to convince thousands of people to either wear the cyanide pill or go and blow themselves up because they believe that that is a better way of doing things. And they created a network wherein these people were honored, they were celebrated. So people wanted to have, including our previous prime minister was knocked out by one of these people, one of our
right,
ex-prime ministers. So
right.
the kind of motivation and the kind of whatever we call, let's say, if you will say, of maybe brainwashing, if that is the wrong word, but motivation, I will say. The motivating people, nobody has been before them or after them go to
So,
that level.
so
No.
you would call it motivating and not brainwashing.
Uh, Brainwashing is, it takes in a very negative sense. In this particular case, that I would say that they were able to motivate them, but of course there was exploitation in that. Brainwashing is where there is no substance in what you're saying. They had a genuine grouse when they started, so they could
Okay,
convince people.
okay.
Because
Let
I'd been
me
to
let
that.
me. Yeah, you have been to there.
No, I've been to Colombo before this chaos started in '82. I've been there after all this chaos took place. It's unfortunate how the things panned out. And then so many lives, so much of struggle, and so much of loss to the nation, which possibly one always looks in, it was handled poorly by Sri Lanka, handled poorly by us. And then, of course, what people thought, that LTT coming up with a leader, then leader became a monster. What you're telling that later on aspects that people realize that there is no end in sight. It is a way of life. Terrorism
mm,
as a way of life. You cannot live like that.
mm.
So that once that came in, of course, it had to end. But even for that,
So,
in the initial years,
mm. So when you call it motivation, would you differentiate it from the kind of discussions or discourses that we have about madrasas?
see, indoctrination and religious brainwashing is one thing, and motivation is the thing. Now, here, this is not with respect to religion. Here, the motivation is you are in this world over. Any population which is feels that is they're subjugated or under occupation have always tried, have always fought. Some of them have won, many of them have lost. But any people who feel that they're being subjugated or they're under occupation, that has been a normal recourse that people have taking to arms
Mm,
all over the world, so
mm,
many places. So you minus the religion when you motivate people, then it is not because it is for all the people there. It is not for only one sector of people. So they were motivating all the people to say that if you want a statehood for yourself, you should fight so that your own state, you should not be subjugated by somebody else. And the dying is, more honorable than living under a compromised condition. Now, this is not an easy idea to sell. Here, you're not selling religion. An agenda which you're selling to convince people that it's your right that you must have an elam, your own statehood, nationhood. So it is different from, let's say, let's say, the crusades which went on where that 200 years they send a whole lot of people, kill them in the name of religion, or what is after that Russian occupation of Afghanistan, what was started by the Americans, jihad as a way of fighting. Those are all, you bring in religion, then takes a different color.
mm.
Here there is no religion involved. It is about it's a cause for a statehood that was propounded. Of course, once it reached a certain point beyond which even their own people could see that their leader was had become a monster and he was not solving anything, and he was not keen to
Mm.
solve either. Otherwise, that settlement in 2004-5 should have gone through. That
Yeah.
is the time to call it off, and they should have settled peacefully then. going down the way he did, finally killing himself and killing so many others with it.
Yeah, your novel also hints at the fact that there was an instruction and a program of creating future tigers by forcibly inseminating women. Do you think that was part of their program?
I believe so.
Hmm.
I believe so. There is some, I mean, that it was active at some point in time. Now, of course, after the 2008, which way it has gone, we do not know. It was not forcibly. Most of them, they had enough volunteers.
Hmm.
Because there was a point in time when they felt that, that is the assumption that this was in the plans. Now, how much of it they actually executed, I do not know. I have only used the open domain literature for this. But this was one of
Hmm.
the lines in which they were known to have been thinking and known to have been
Okay.
trying to promote.
Uh,
So I won't be
Shibu, we have been.
surprised even today.
Hmm. You won't be surprised even today
If you find an actual sleeper cell of HT coming alive someday.
sleeper cell coming alive someday. Okay. Okay. So it could be dormant at the moment. Yeah. Right. Right. Okay, we have been talking for quite some time. Would you, just to change the mood a little bit, like to read two paragraphs or something from your book for those who are listening in? Something that is your favorite portion of the novel?
I do not have any particular favorite portion of the novel, but I will read any one
Yes,
page which
please.
comes first. Okay.
Okay, okay.
Do you know the difference between Ramayana and Mahabharata? I don't
Which
ask
which
to be
page which page is that? If you could just give me an indication.
37.
37. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Prem did not respond. He knew his brother would come up with some pearls of wisdom. Ramayana is all about living by the letter of the law. Mahabharata is about living by the spirit of the law. Arun said stoically and looking at Prem. Prem thought for a few seconds and knew it was too profound a statement even to contest. He was still churning in his mind when the next question came. Do you know who was the hero in Mahabharata? Arun was smiling as he looked at Prem. Arjuna or Karna? Prem responded. I consider Ashwatthama to be the true hero. Arun replied immediately with an air of finality. Prem did not respond. There were many heroes in Mahabharata, a lot depended on the perspective. He sat there ruminating on the question. This is
Right. Uh, um, you see, it's a one very good portion that you picked for reading, because that brings me to my next question. These two brothers, Arun and Prem, whom you have portrayed, are generally they come through as drifters, right? They're moving around from Kishanganj to here to there, having committed some kind of crime somewhere, running away from there, and then coming back with a sense of revenge, to take revenge, and so on and so forth. Do you think these kind of characters would be so well versed with the Mahabharata and all?
in this particular case, if you see, the Arun was brought up as one of the brightest students who had been to college. So he was brought up with a background. He was brilliant, and that is one of the reasons why he is given this kind of capability. And one of the things is that Ramayana and Mahabharata is about anyone having an attitude to understand it. Then of course it comes. It requires a discerning mind. Definitely it follows. But as a course of study, if you say that it is a part of your course curriculum, no, it will not come. But in any Indian household, anybody who keeps his or her wits about and reads, these two epics will form, and it's not difficult.
Or you even hear it from your grandmother
Of
in very
course, you
many
will hear,
cases. Yeah,
yeah, very many cases, of course, you will hear, but then that is a storytelling version. The oral tradition
yeah,
continues.
yeah.
But the discerning perspectives come from reading.
Right. Now, how long did you work on this novel? Because the time frame that you are talking about, some portions are going back into history, uh, even to the period of independence and so on and so forth, right? When you're talking about the family. But then
Yes.
the main bulk of the novel is of the here and now, so to speak. Yeah, it's a very kind of set in modern times, right? So you have done a lot of research to bring in the authenticity that you have actually. So how long did you actually require to do the research, write the novel, and for it to hit the stands?
So this novel took me 2 years in research and 1,800 man working hours. So that means, it's that kind of effort which went into it. So a lot of the
Mhm.
time went in actually character sketching and researching. Because
Mm.
as you sketch a character, sketch things, you want to be sure that what you're saying is uh, it's on the dot. So that's the one thing about, like you rightly brought out, that when you quote history or delve into events which have actually happened, you have to quote so correctly without getting
Right,
any biases into it. So
right.
to that extent, the large fair amount of time. So it's about 1,800 man hours, man writing hours, I'll say, in research, getting the book ready, and it took me about 2 years. Then, of
Mm-hmm.
course, some more time with the editor before it could see the print.
Right. Uh, Now, it was mentioned at the beginning in your introduction that some of the characters in your novel have been inspired by real life characters that you have come across during your encounters with various people. So, would you like to narrate one or two such examples of people who inspired you to bring in a certain character into your novel?
So one is one is not a character whom I met, but it's an event which caught my attention. In the sense, in 1983, there was an event when the onset of the civil war in Colombo. There was an incident of the mob burning a family in a car, a Tamil family, and they pulled out the children and put the parents inside and burned them. After some time, the father came out of the burning car and pulled the
And
children out and went
pull the
back and
children in.
in and decided that children should die with them. Now, this was something which was, kind of, I would say, unbelievable to me, that,
Mm,
that why would a father want to kill his own children? But then there comes the whole question that, the what he thinks is better for the children, because he believes that it is better for them to die with them than being abused or maybe mauled by the public later. So you end up killing your own dear ones, who, like how how dear children are to you. This is one. Second is, in 2008, there was an incident reported in UP. There was a girl by name Shabnam, a double postgraduate, and who killed her parents, uh, two brothers, a sister-in-law, and a small child by sedating them, then axing them to death in the night with the help of her lover.
mm, mm,
So when this story came about, I could not believe. I said, this girl is being set up. Said it's too brutal a thing to even imagine that a girl could do this.
mm,
But subsequently, as things came about and as more and more of it got reported, then it was clear that for whatever reasons, the family had not permitted her to marry somebody, a school dropout, whom she wanted to marry, and she was already pregnant. So he had called him in, and for whatever reason, they decided to kill the family, and she thought he could get away with it. Now she has been found guilty by all the courts. She's to be hung. She'll be the first woman prisoner to be hung to death in the independent history of India. If she does, I mean, they will still go on appeal, etc. Now, when this event also happened, I could not believe that, we normally associate this kind of such brutal things to men. You do not really associate. If you say Nirbhaya rape case, you say it's all men, toxicity, male toxicity. I did speak. When you say that, the toxic men don't like toxic men, women also do not like, but they do exist. But in real life, we rarely come across women who take to such levels of, let's say, degenerated behavior. So, in many ways, so these events, when you read, and when I say when I've been inspired, means you keep the events along with you, and it portrays. And there was an actual incident of, let's say, I think it was 2010 or 11. There was an incident of the Israeli Mossad team executing one of the terrorists in Dubai.
mm,
It was around 12 or 2012 or 13. And it was just reported that a terrorist has been killed. And after 4 5 days, the ISI helped Dubai police piece together how this team had come, where they had stayed, and how they met. And they proved from the videos of the hotel that these were the 5 people who had come. They had come using this passport. They had met in this place. This is the place. It is almost like a mini movie that they put together the whole thing. So, wherein, of course, subsequently the UK protested saying that why is Israel using their passports and that, the event went into the background. But again, actually, went. So, when I say inspired by events, it is not that, the heroine Neti Cherosil means it is inspired by somebody whom I have seen directly. No.
No.
But I have met, let's say, IIT, IIM graduates, women who are capable of handling business on their own.
Mhm. And being
So,
very successful also, like
very
90.
successful in that. Yeah. And second is, I've also met women who speak their mind and live their life, professionals. So
Right.
these are now. If you say that, does this individual relate to that individual? No, but you picked
No.
out. You have seen that there are IIM graduates, women who are successful and who are capable of running business and advising their family and steering the family business. That is, yes, I have met such people.
Mm.
Or let's say you have met even other side of the people when you say the spectrum, people who had degenerate or people who have been victims of, let's say, the caste, uh, let's say the caste bane and the caste problems, caste violence. Not directly, there is no character who's a direct lift off from somebody whom I met, but yes, the problems that people have faced, some of them whom I met, let's say even I've been to this place, Gambia, I traveled, and when I met many of the things that I've talked about, some of that not directly related to the story about oppression of the slaves and why the Americans should pay the blacks for the 200 years of subjugation which they have done. So there are people who are talking about it, where they say
Mm.
that that America has got a system that if a company does something wrong, he has to pay a fine. There are many companies who have paid billions of dollars fine. So here, as a society, for 200 years, so many of them were working free with no salaries, no wages, and that's how they built the nation. He says today you say that they're 15% of the population, but they don't share the wealth. They said they should be compensated. There should be mechanism.
Mm. Mm.
So these are somebody who was working the UN had talked on this might come across. So some of these events are with people whom you meet and who talk and give you a perspective on how they look at things, which are a little different from normally what you see. And otherwise, yes, these are all built from okay. There is a lot of
Right.
talk about advertisement. There's a lot of talk about IIT Live, IIM Live. There's a lot of talk about, let's say, pornography, how the video shooting is done. So it
Yes,
has
yes.
covered a vast spectrum. So it's a
Y-
lot of things are it's
You even talk
based
about
on
pornography as a way of making money or generating money for terrorist activities.
yes, of course.
Yeah.
It's a
Mm.
true. It's true.
Mm.
See, the raising funds with terror organizations, they have no bars. Wherever they can make money, they will make money. Whatever way, drugs. So normally you talk about ISI, the first source of money is drugs and women, always. So that ISI is an open secret that they have the latitude where they can carry it off.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Uh,
wherever all terror organizations where they have raised money, they will do things which are need to be done, whatever it takes.
of course, your inspiration of real life characters have not got translated one to one in your novel, but that particular inspiration about the burning car and the father pulling the children into the car has been reflected in your novel also. You see,
Yeah, but of
that
course,
is the
that there is no child alive after that. In this case, I've kept a guy.
in
The
in
boy's
in
left there.
in this case the son is left
Yeah,
who is adopted to Canada and things like that. We don't want to give
yeah,
away the story to the
yeah. Sure.
listeners over here. But you mentioned the term sedated a little while ago. That brings me to another question. We are nearing the end of our discussion, but
Sure.
uh, you see, there is a liberal, I would say, a liberal dose of sex in your novel also, and a certain amount of perversion. Uh, you see, men going and sedating women and violating them. Uh, now, why have you brought in this angle of perversion? Uh, is there any particular purpose, or even if it is pulling your hair out of the head, I can realize it may be a wig and you can pull it off, right? But pulling hair from other parts of the body may not be so easy.
So actually, there is a certain aspect to this. It's basically to bring about to say that, let's say, this is again an actual event where there have been people who have known to do this, where you use whichever way to, let's say, sedate women and rape them. So that is a
Mhm.
practice which has been done by the similar people. That means the caste war converts or the caste subjugated people in their way of getting revenge. So one part of it is based on some truth. The second part of it is that, see, what does a woman do if she is, let's say, has to go through that event? So if you see what you're saying here is okay, somebody is hitting below the belt, I will play by my rules. My rules are that I'll kill him. So now, if you see it in its entirety, otherwise, what let's say I will go one step further from what you said. Is the novel justifying toxic behavior of men? I
Mm.
mean, it's as good as that. Is it? Are you glorifying toxic behavior of men? No,
Yes,
no. I'm
that's
just
my
saying it is
question.
correct. It is answer is no. But the
Mm.
answer is it's also to tell that there are many of the readers who have told that uh, people say that you do not like reading about rape as a subject. I said yes, because and unfortunately in our society it has become a that for the drawing room readers to the WhatsApp warriors and people who do not step out into the society. But otherwise, it's a reality. It is a problem which people face on a day-to-day basis. And there are these kind of elements for somebody who has been persecuted for some other reason. He takes it out on a woman who has nothing to do with this.
Mm.
So the whole purpose there was to show the mentality of, let's say, how a caste equation or a girl who has, let's say, spurned a guy because he's from the lower caste, how it changes him and what he ends up doing later. So that is a perspective brought out, and the solution given is that okay, that so this is given. So if you go below the belt, then encounter killing.
Mm.
So if you ask that, is encounter killing right? I will reserve my opinion.
Mm.
The normal answer is no, but there are times when that you
There
may
are
feel
times.
that is lesser. There are times when you feel that is lesser of the evils.
Mm.
There are times, but of course, it is not a license to kill. Of course, it is dangerous area, but there are times when you feel that that is maybe lesser of the options. So because you remember recently, in a couple of years back, there was an instance in Hyderabad
Mhm.
where some truck drivers and etc. had hijacked a lady and raped her and then burned her.
Mm.
So I mean,
Yeah,
some of them were.
but this is a common practice in certain states of India of raping young girls and burning them.
So that is correct. So that may be the fact. That's what I said. No, the whole issue there is if you come back, it'll again come to this the caste bane. It's
Mm.
always the Dalits who are subjugated at all places, all times. Because anyone else, there is always retaliation.
Right.
But this whole idea was to highlight that. So if you look at it from a from the limited perspective, because this question has come to me from some of the readers also. Are you glorifying rape? Are you glorifying toxic behavior of men? Are you justifying such kind of let's say the degenerate behavior of men? I said no. Answer is no.
Mm. Okay, of course, you bring out the other aspect also. Haven't there been questions regarding that? You are talking about female sexuality also, about your character, Nike, who even after 40 has libido and loves her sex life, and is one of the reasons why she marries Tony.
That is, see, the here question is now we are talking about there is a male Mata Hari who is not known to her. It
Mm.
comes out only later. So now, say, let's say, for example, if Priyanka Chopra marries somebody who is, I don't know how many years, 15 years younger, does she not marry? She has. Or Amrita Singh, when he married Saif Ali Khan, then Amrita Singh must have been about 12 years elder to him. So, do successful women marry young men? Yes, they do. So, so therefore, is it only that men are allowed when they are, like you said, Harish Salve at the age of 64 has gone to UK and married somebody, divorced and married somebody at the age of 64. When the women do it at 39, is it a crime? There's nothing wrong. There
Right.
have been women, that's why I said so. When women think independently and act as, that they way, lead the life they want, some of these things will come out. So there are examples like, the recent ones I've just highlighted, but there will be many more like that.
Hmm. Good. There is a lot of masala in your novel. And to that extent, I wanted to ask you, have you been approached with some kind of a proposal to make a film out of this story? Because it will
Not
make a
yet.
wonderful make a wonderful mainstream cinema. The kind of films that you see, I can visualize Mohanlal going and bashing up all these people or indulging in activities, though he doesn't let any other youngsters act in Malayalam films nowadays. Whenever my television is on at home, I see only Mohanlal and Mohanlal. So when I go in front of the television, I say Mohanlalaya Namaha. so but on a more serious note, I think it has all the ingredients. Your novel has all the ingredients which can turn it into a wonderful mainstream blockbuster. Don't you think
Oh,
so?
thank you, Raju. That I leave to the
Yeah.
people who are making movies.
No, but don't you think so?
But
Because
I believe so.
it even has a happy end in what happens after.
Yeah, I guess yes. To that extent, yes.
Yeah,
There also it's a little philosophical at the end. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
So
Okay,
the
on that, yeah, go ahead.
no, I'm just saying
Go
that
ahead.
yes, I believe the book has, and I was a voracious reader in my time, so I definitely know what the book is worth.
Right. You have included everybody. Nobody should feel left out. Demonetization is there. Fake currency is there. Heroin is there. All these codes of the underworld are there. All the underworld characters are there. And all the intelligence agencies are there. Mossad, ISI, whatnot, what have you. Everything is there. So the ingredients are there. So I can visualize that it could turn out to be a wonderful mainstream film with all these ingredients. Right. Thank you very much. It has been a pleasure talking to you, Shibu, and it has been even more pleasure reading your book from cover to cover. And it keeps you gripping. So sometimes my wife was wondering what I was doing past midnight, and then there was this red cover which she saw, Fate and the Beloved. Of course, she didn't go beyond that, but it kept me glued on certain days when I was reading. So you have to read it within 2 days. Otherwise, you are inquisitive about what is happening next. And I congratulate you on this novel. And it was indeed a great pleasure talking to you. Maybe there are some questions from some of the viewers. Mona, are there any questions?
Hi, Rajida. There are no questions, but several viewers have said that they had a very interesting session and they enjoyed listening to you all. So I'm sure that they will now pick up a copy of The Faith and Beloved because
You
they
should
are
you should
interested.
put in their chat box. You should put in their chat box that it was interesting listening to Shibu,
Yes.
but it will be even more interesting if they get hold of his book and read it.
Absolutely, we recommend very highly that they purchase Faith and the Beloved because it's a very very cleverly written book and a very astute book, and so much to know from that book. And we learned so much from you today from your discussion. So thank you so much on behalf of Readers and Writers Club, on behalf of the viewers. A big thank you, Rajida, for moderating the session so
My
gracefully.
pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you. And Shibu, as always, you're very special to us, very dear to us, and we wish you all the best for your future endeavors.
Thank you, Mona. Thank you, Raju. Thank you so much.
Most
All the
welcome.
best. All the
Thank
best.
you.
Bye bye.
Thank you.